We arrived to the hotel around 7:45. We entered the hotel with we were joined with what we call the zafe, which is the traditional band we use at the wedding ceremonies. I could never ever think that this was a terrorist attack. After the bombing took place, I went back home to my parents' house with my aunt and my cousins. At that time, I did not know who was alive. After a few hours of trying, I could call my husband, and he told me that both of your parents are okay, they are at the hospital, and I'm going to see them now. So I felt a bit relieved because he said that they are fine. But later at that night, I knew that my father has lost his life, and my mother was severely injured. She was injured in her spinal cord, and she had 2 surgeries at that night, but she could not make it, and after 1 week she also passed away.
I was actually lying underneath a car when I heard the explosion.
The massive car bomb in Omagh exploded at 3:10 in the heart of the town's busy shopping area.
When I went home, I discovered that Aidan hadn't phoned home or hadn't came home. I left immediately for the hospital. It was quite a horrific scene, and I frantically went through the hospital looking for Aidan, and I couldn't find him. I left the hospital and went to the leisure centre. That's where the information was collated. I think it was about 3:30 in the morning. I was taken into a room, and 2 police officers asked me some very detailed questions about Aidan's clothing and his appearance. And when we finished, he asked me to go to the local army camp where one of the helicopter hangars had been turned into a temporary mortuary, and it was there that Aidan's body was identified.
During the game, I was like talking about my birthday, at the same time talking about the first World Cup in Africa. I just left the place. As I was going to reach my sister's place, I had like a blast.
The World Cup has ended tragically, though, in Uganda, where 2 bomb blasts
I didn't
have killed
expect
more
even
than
bomb
60.
attack that time. I thought maybe a trailer or a fuel tank had burst. I didn't even expect a bomb. I just proceeded, entered, I got something to eat, drink, and I continued the match from there. When I came to know it's an attack now in the morning when I saw, and I saw it on TV. So I ran, I said, no, let me go reach there, see. When I reached there was a blockade. I was just alone thinking, now what's this? The only person I turned to maybe God, I said, no, thanks that I'm alive, because how come I left the place yet I'm always still late. But also I felt very bad, sorry for the guys who had died.
Just 10 to 11, we heard the noise, so we didn't know what was going on. We said, what's wrong, what's wrong? And somebody said, oh, maybe there was a bomb. So I came home and I turned on the TV, but I'm not looking at the TV, I'm just listening. And I kept ringing him on the mobile. No answer. At exactly 1:35, the doorbell went, and it was the postman. So I went to receive the post. At that moment, the phone rang. So I said, can you get it, please? I said, who is it? She said, oh, it's Keram calling. And I heard my friend, my neighbor say, oh, really? What more? At that moment, I collapsed. My friends wouldn't let me see him again. I went to the morgue every day, but it seems his body was very badly harassed, so they didn't want me to see him like this.
We began the return to Villavicencio. Guerrilla made a stop, and they asked about me. When in the guerrilla with rifles and very strongly armed, said me, you must go with us. I was very feared. They took me to a place where were other hostages in a camp with a wire as a cage, I would think. They didn't speak with us. It was prohibited. You always think it happens to other people, but not to you. So, of course, I was very afraid.
I remember standing at the bar in the banquet hall when we heard what had to have sounded only like firecrackers. The Taj staff, who were extremely diligent and incredibly brave, guided us through the inner corridor of the hotel to another part of the Taj called the Chambers. We felt relatively safe and we thought we'd be fine. Even while the bullets were going on, we went out and we got this gentleman, this Taj maintenance officer who'd been shot in the stomach. We brought him in and then we bolted the door. A couple of doctors who tried to help the man who'd been shot, but there was very little they could do as his intestines were almost coming out. We then just sat there and waited as there was this constant stream of gunfire and exploding grenades going off outside. I think for myself, I pretty much resigned myself to waiting to be put out of my misery.
मेरी वाइफ एक यूएन के दफ्तर में काम करती थी और पिछले साल उनके दफ्तर के अंदर एक खुद का हमला आवर दाखिल हुआ और उसने अपने आप को उड़ा दिया। उस दफ्तर में काम करने वाले 5 लोगों की वफ़ात हुई, जिनमें एक मेरी वाइफ थी। ये कि आप सुबह अपनी वाइफ को ऑफिस छोड़ के आते हैं और आप शाम का प्लान बना रहे होते हैं कि जब 5 बजे मैं आपको पिक करूंगा तो हम जिनस ऊपर जाएंगे, वहाँ पर हमने ये काम करने हैं। 1 बजे 2:15 बजे आप एक उसकी डेड बॉडी लेके घर आ जाते हैं और शाम को 5 बजे आप उसको गुस्ल दे के फारग हो जाते हैं और रात को 10 बजे आप उसको दफना देते हैं। तो ये चीज़ जो है, इसको समझने के लिए सिर्फ वही समझ सकता है जो कि इससे गुजरा होता है। आज तक हमें अभी तक इस सवाल का जवाब नहीं मिला कि ये क्यों है, ये क्या वजह है कि ये इस किस्म का सानिहा जो है ये पाकिस्तान में इतना कॉमन हो गया है। कहते हैं द गुड डाई यंग, शायद इसलिए वो चली गई कि वो अच्छी थी, मगर उसके साथ साथ फिर ये भी सवाल होता है कि जो पीछे रह गए उनमें क्या खराबी थी।
After I went to crew practice, I went to a breakfast meeting in a hotel outside of Boston in Cambridge, the Marriott. And when I was leaving that hotel, that's when someone came up to me and said, "Did you hear the latest gossip?" I'll never forget, that was his line. And I sort of rolled my eyes and said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And he said, 2 planes have hit the World Trade Center in New York. And I thought, well, that doesn't really sound like gossip, but much like everyone else, I just thought it was 2 small planes. And I was coming down an escalator into the lobby when I saw on TV what was going on.
It doesn't appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now, remember,
I was shocked and stood transfixed in front of the TV, and it never dawned on me that anyone I knew could be affected. And it wasn't until the crawl on the screen said that one of the planes was out of Boston flying to California. And I remember thinking, gosh, it really stinks for anyone who's flying today. And then it took me a good few seconds to remember, wait, Mom's supposed to fly today.
Evi telefon açıyor, ben geliyorum, beni karşılayın diye. Yine onu bıraktığımız otobüs durağından babam onu almak için gidiyor. Ama bir terslik olduğunu kendisi de, yanda bulunan kişiler ateş yakmışlar. O ateşle ellerindeki molotofları tutuşturuyorlar ve otobüse atıyorlar. Önce babam ne olduğunu anlayamıyor. Bir kız kapıda, otobüsün kapısında bir kızın olduğunu görüyor. Kim olduğunu anlamıyor ama kız yanıyor, bağırıyor baba beni kurtar diye. Ama o bir insaniyetlik namına onun yanına gidiyor onu kurtarmak için. Fakat bir bakıyor ki kendi kızı, bütün vücudu yanmıştı. Bana ilk söylediği şey, abi beni kurtardı. Bana ne olacaktı? Siz ona bakıyorsunuz ama o size öyle bakmıyor. Sizin ona baktığınız gibi bakamıyor. Ne yapacağınızı bilmiyorsunuz. O sadece beni kurtarın diyor. Siz ama onu kurtaramıyorsunuz. Elini bile tutamıyorsunuz çünkü elleri de yanmış.
The night before, a friend of mine phoned me and she told me she was going to pick me up at a different station so that I could wake up later. So this is what I did, and my brother took the train. And the trains were blocked, but we didn't know why. We thought it was like a technical issue. At around noon, my parents phoned and said, please come back home, we cannot find Oscar and we don't know where he is. We knew at that time that it had been a terrorist attack, which is something that early in the morning we didn't know. And it was only on Friday evening that we knew he was dead. So it took us 1.5 days to know this. For all the possibilities I had in my mind, like he was very injured or he was at hospital, he was in coma, but at no point did I think that he could be dead.
We get out from the car, we just arrived at the restaurant. It's not almost 5 minutes. Suddenly the bomb was back. And in that time, I don't know if it's bomb or earthquake or something like that. It just like boom, and then everything is very, very dark. I realized that my hand was burning, and I tried to shut off the fire. I'm trying to get help, but everybody is panic. And then there's one car who was bringing me to the hospital, and then the hospital is very, very chaos. It was very, very traumatic for me because every 2 days you have to change your bandage because I have 42% burn in my body. It's on my hand and in my back. I'm spending in hospital is like 4 months. Beside me, I have a trauma. My family a trauma also.
My family is now getting larger. I have 2 kids. I have my daughter, her name is Hala. I named her after my mother's name. She's 4 years old. And I have Khaled, also named him after my father-in-law's name. He's only 2 months old. Hala and Khaled really brought back the real meaning of joy and happiness into my life.
I was constantly thinking about Oma. I really made Oma part of my life. I have worked mainly with victims and victim-related issues. I suppose in some ways that has been, maybe for me, my type of therapy.
It has changed me seriously in that I think always, how come that I survive? You know, sometimes tears just flow and then say, you can't control it. Yeah. But I've tried to move on, so because at least, I've tried to copy up, joining networks of terrorism, how to stop it, speak against terrorism.
I merely exist because half of me is gone. For 1 year, I didn't go out of the house. There were 3 ways. Either I had to tie a rope around my neck with a rock and throw myself into the waters of the Bosphorus, or go to the asylum, or bear it and try to stand on your feet. So now I work as a drama teacher, and I raise lovely students, and they give me life.
The day I was released, it was a very special day, of course. When I got down from the helicopter that transported me from the jungle to my city, and I embraced my son and my wife, I felt as if I was born again. To come back to the life is to come back to the freedom, and then begin a new life.
I don't know how much an ordinary citizen like me can do in the war on terror, but as an individual I can try and at least develop certain skills or learn a discipline like psychology to try to reach out to fellow survivors and people who have been in certain experiences like this.
वो कहते हैं ना कि अगर आप आँख के बदले आँख निकाल लेंगे तो फिर दुनिया में आँखों वाला कोई नहीं बचेगा, सब अंधे हो जाएंगे। और उसको हमने ले करके फिर एक नेटवर्क अब हम बनाना चाह रहे हैं। हमारी तरह के जितने लोग हैं जिनके कोई अजीज़ फौत हो चुके हैं किसी टेररिज्म के हमले में, उनको एक प्लेटफॉर्म दिया जाए ताकि वो आपस में बातचीत करें, अपने अंदर का जो दुख है उसको दूसरों के साथ शेयर करें, उनको ये पता चले कि वो अकेले इस दुख से नहीं गुजर रहे हैं।
I always had my sister. I think one of the things my mom had taught me and my sisters from a very young age was that no matter what happens, we always will be sisters. I don't think I can ever have a life plan anymore because I know that even on a beautiful, lovely day, everything can fall apart or everything can change, and everything that you think you know can suddenly get turned upside down. So I don't really make long-term plans anymore, and I don't ever want to feel that my mom's murder wasn't enough to make changes to prevent another attack, and that's what drives me every day.
Serap gittikten sonra biz sadece aile değil, diğer bizim yanımızda olan, bizi tanıyan herkes bize destek olmaya çalıştı. Bizi hiç yalnız bırakmamaya çalışıyor. Yani Serap gitti, artık yapılabilecek bir şey yok. Biz onun yokluğuna alışmak diye bir şey söz konusu değil tabii. 17 sene masal gibi geçti. Masal sonunda kötü bitti. Bu yüreğimizdeki acı geçmeyecek. Biz ömrümüzün sonuna kadar.
One week after the attacks, I took the train for the first time. Once I was in the train, a Moroccan guy came inside with a rucksack. Everyone went completely silent. He sat next to me, and I thought it was really unfair that people would just judge him because he's a Moroccan and because he has a rucksack and he's going to work. So I thought about how easily this fear could become violence. We victims have a great responsibility in spreading a message of non-violence, of tolerance and peace.
I'm very grateful that I'm still alive because there's a lot of people that's unlucky like me. God gave me a second chance to live. I describe it, what happened to me is my fate. Maybe my skin is burned, but I'm encouraged to continue my life. Maybe they can ruin my skin, but they can stop me to move on, to continue my life.